What if against all odds, you finally landed your dream job? You did everything you were supposed to. You prepared, you studied, you prayed, you studied so much that you became a student of the game. You literally did everything you were supposed to in order to get that position. And you finally did it. You're making the money at the dream job, at the dream place, with everything exactly the way you need it. And things are looking up when you become so arrogant that you lose everything you built, that you will risk everything that you ever worked for, the entire life that you created for yourself. Something must be going on. And so today we want to talk about the idea of preparing yourself for the journey ahead. Because once you reach the top, you will be tested for sure. 100% is coming. Some people like to think of it as a target on your back. Other people call it what it is: pressure. Proper pressure that you got to be able to deal with if you want to be able to maintain the top position. For sure there's going to be people who come after you. For sure there're going to be people who target your money and status and fame and want to use you for all sorts of things. And you have to find a way to fight through the noise, because if you know for a fact that your position is highly coveted, that there are others who want it, that you worked so hard to develop and build everything, you would never risk it all if you truly understood and respected the value of what you built. So once again, we want to talk about the idea of being not only disciplined, but being diligent and persistent. Understanding and recognizing what your purpose is and all of the things that you have to lose and risk if you decide to be sloppy with it. And if you haven't figured it out right now, you can lose everything that you built over an entire lifetime in a moment, all because you decided that you were invincible, that you were untouchable, that you couldn't be defeated. Today we want to talk about the idea of remaining humble even once you reach the top, knowing and understanding your role and respecting those around you, especially the ones who were with you on the come up, who supported you while you were getting there. Everybody in the country's been talking about this head coach who lost his job because he couldn't control himself. In order to reach the highest heights, in order to be the person worthy of the highest positions, it takes a lifetime of preparation. It takes tons of work and building and consistency. But to lose it could be such a quick thing. To lose it could be just like that. And if you aren't careful, it could be you. Because once you start reaching higher heights, you start feeling more untouchable. We're human. The more we obtain wealth, the more we build and see success. It is human nature to eventually become arrogant, to eventually become full of ourselves on some level and lose track of that perspective. And that's why it's important to every now and again just focus back, just hone in, so that you don't lose everything. And it will be so easy to sit back and judge somebody else. But true wisdom comes when you can learn from the mistakes of others. There's so much more that we can take and learn from these situations, and we can use it to make us better. Because true wisdom isn't doing things over and over and finding new ways to fail. But you see and know for a fact that other people have already walked in the footsteps that you want to, you can see what they've done wrong as well. If you know for a fact that certain missteps could lead to the destruction, the downfall of everything, you got to be hyper careful about them. You got to make sure that you don't put yourself in those positions. A lot of times doing the right thing, being a disciplined person, is about making a choice that much easier for you. If you know there's going to be a temptation, if you know there's going to be something that you aren't strong enough to say no to, why put yourself around it? If you know for a fact that you got wandering eyes, you can't be putting yourself in situations where your wandering eyes would be tempted. But even more than that, what's the point of taking a vow if you don't actually take it serious? To be honest, we talk about the millions and millions that so many people will lose because they make missteps and they have this high position in the public eye. But what about their family and the supporters and the people who have been there since day one? What about supporting them? What about not showing up and honoring and respecting the position that they helped put you in? What about showing love to the people who show love to you? Learning from the mistakes of others so that you don't have to make them yourself is true wisdom. And it is absolutely a part of your infinite evolution. So will you choose to learn from the mistakes of others? Or do you have to be hard-headed? Do you have to keep finding new ways to fail? Lack of discipline, especially when it comes to things that are physical, is often enough to destroy you. So when you know for a fact there's a thing that you are tempted with, there's a thing that you find it hard to resist, and it's also a thing that could be destroying you, you got to find ways to not only remove the temptation, but make it easier for yourself so that you don't always have to rely on your willpower. Even the strongest will is going to be tested. And when you're at your weakest, when you're at your lowest, that's when it's easiest to attack you. And that's when you got to be most careful. Lack of discipline, especially physical, is enough to destroy everything you've built. Why take the risk when it's not necessary? Why do it to yourself? Why even open yourself up to things that you know for a fact could bring everything crashing down? Everything you work so hard for. Why put yourself in a position where you have to look at things in hindsight with that regret when it's not necessary? This is the infinite evolution. This Sunday in church, I heard one of the most powerful things ever. They were talking about the 4 different stages of temptation. First, there's a thought. Then your imagination runs wild. Then there's a justification of why you should be able to do it, why you deserve it. And then there's a choice. Then there's a decision. Then there's the action that you actually take in order to fulfill it. The truth is, you generally have a way out. The truth is, there's generally a way for you to avoid whatever the thing is that's going to destroy you. Choose to put yourself in those situations. You choose to allow the triggers to be where they are, even when you can remove them, and you set yourself up for failure. That's not a part of the infinite evolution. That's actually part of self-destruction, and you got to be really careful about not doing that to yourself. There will be no alarm bells or signals to let you know that a thing is destroying you, that it's slowly tearing you down, and oftentimes you don't even know it until it's too late. That's why you got to be conscious about looking at what you're doing in the moment so that you're not caught off guard. So whether we're talking about a head coach losing his dream job at a high-profile athletic institution, or we're talking about a podcaster losing hundreds of millions of dollars of deals and monies and endorsements, the biggest thing that these people lost wasn't just the money. It's the trust, the respect, the social capital that's far more important, far more valuable than any amount of money. Money can be made and lost, but certain things must be built and forged over time. And once you lose them, things like trust, things like respect, it's really hard to get them back. And if you can't understand and reckon with that reality, life is going to be hard. These people, and more specifically these men, had everything to lose. And despite the fact that you got everything to lose, you're taking these massive risks that could cost you everything. Risks with people who you know for a fact it's probably not going to work out with. Risks for people who you know for a fact could say one word and everything comes crumbling down. And you still chose to risk it all. When you have everything, but you still choose to risk it all just to please your flesh in a really brief moment, you got to question, how arrogant have I become? How far have I gone? And if in fact you know that this is something that's within you, you got to do everything within your power to make sure that it doesn't happen. Not just for you, for your family and your supporters and the people who are counting on you and depending on you and who need your leadership and guidance. Sometimes you're too important in order to fall. We love to see when people can pick themselves up from the ashes and do something great. But what if you didn't have to do that? What if you could be the one who, instead of falling and fumbling and having to apologize for something too big ever to fully sweep under the rug, what if you could be different? What if you could be the ones who say, I know for a fact from day one, I'm going to stand on business. I'm going to be a man of character. I'm going to be a woman of integrity. I'm not going to allow my morals to be compromised. In those brief moments, in those moments of weakness, in those moments of temptation, you probably thought you had it all figured out. You probably thought you could get away with it. And it's often our own arrogance and hubris that does it to us. Don't let it be you. And it's so easy to have it happen. You may be thinking to yourself, I'm not a multi-million-dollar coach. I'm not a multi-million-dollar podcast. How does this apply to me? What about that decision that you're going to have to make today or this week or this month? And you know for a fact that it's going to challenge your integrity. You know for a fact that if you do it, it's going to make you a little bit worse off. It's going to change who you are. It's going to rot you a little bit more from the core. Why would you choose it for yourself? If you know for a fact there's a way you could set yourself up for better. There's a way that you could remove the temptation, that you could make it easier for you in order to be successful. Why wouldn't you give yourself that chance? Maybe the demons you've been fighting aren't demons, it's just you. Maybe you're fighting against yourself, and if you could get out of your own way, you could become your best self. But how can you do it if you won't choose it? We all experience temptation. The temptation ain't the problem. It's what you choose to do with it. Again, you gotta love how simple the idea of you begin with a thought. Whatever the thing is that you know you shouldn't be doing, you begin with that thought. And next up is the imagination. You imagine yourself doing something. You imagine how it might go. You start doing all these mental gymnastics, how good things could be, how much pleasure you might be able to experience, how this might go and that might look. And even though you know there's drawbacks, you choose to ignore them. And you can already see where the problem lies, because what's in your imagination is not rooted in reality. Your imagination is the wildest dreams, the best case scenario. Not I'm gonna get caught, not what really happens. You might breeze over it and brush over it, but when you're making all the money, when you have the fame, the acclaim, the power, it's easy to forget just how easily you can fall. It's easy to feel superhuman. It's easy to feel invincible. It's easy to forget that there was once a time where you weren't at that position. And it wasn't that long ago, because none of us really get that much time here. If you know for a fact that the position you're in is one that you'll never be able to find again, the respect, the love, the admiration, the character, the people who seek your wisdom and perspective, all that's going to change once you start to question and compromise your integrity. And it all starts with you. Thought precedes action is the name of the game. Thought precedes action is what I've been saying since day one. The thought is where it began. The choice is where it ended. And that's what leads to the downfall. But all of it was a choice. All of it was preventable if you simply choose, in a small moment, I'm going to handle business. I know what's important. I have the perspective, and I'm a disciplined person. It's been said that what's been done in the dark will often come to the light. Well, what happens when you've been preaching to the masses about being a good and moral person, a stand-up guy, a leader, a man of morals and integrities and value and character, a family man, a man of dignity, but you've been doing the opposite? Why shouldn't you be exposed? Why wouldn't the truth come out? And why wouldn't this be the ultimate lesson for you to learn? Because when you reach the highest heights and choose to disrespect the gift that you've been given, the blessings that you've been given, what else do you deserve but to fall? What else have you earned but a moment of humility? Sometimes even those at the highest gotta eat it for a little bit. And this is what's happening. We all gotta be humble sometimes once we get a little too arrogant. It's the universe's way of correcting us, of making sure that things are going right. God didn't make your head so big that it topples over. You chose that for yourself, and this is where you are. When you're a public figure, when you're a leader, when others look to you for your guidance, you have to remember that you're being held to a far higher standard. And if you choose not to live up to it, there's going to be consequences. Just like there have been rewards for you reaching the pinnacle or whatever it is you do, there's going to be consequences for living and moving in a low way when you know for a fact that this position is higher than that. Imagine having the entire world upset at you, judging you, mad at you, angry because you did something to somebody they don't even know. Even when their own lives are in shambles, but they still got an opinion about you. Posting, tweeting, statuses, stories, podcasts, you name it. And all of it was brought about because you chose to disrespect the position that you have been blessed with. We cannot blame others for our own downfall when we chose to set the wheels in motion. And make no mistake about it, you always have a choice. But what do you do with that choice? How do you honor the gift that you've been given? The choice. All of this could be avoided with perspective and discipline. All of this could be avoided if you really embraced accountability. If you surrounded yourself with people who you know for a fact would challenge you and push you and told you what was the truth. But oftentimes, once you reach the top, people are afraid to tell you no. They're afraid to challenge you. When people are lonely, they make bad decisions. When you're super successful, when you're really famous, it's hard for most people to relate. It can be hard for the average person to understand what it is you go through. And so it might even feel natural to isolate yourself. But again, in those moments, that's when you're most vulnerable. When you're lonely, you're vulnerable. When you're tired, you're vulnerable. When you're weak, you're vulnerable. When you're angry, you're vulnerable. Well, think about when the best time to attack somebody is. If I know for a fact that you're tired, you're weak, you're hungry, when someone is mad or upset, sad, they're not thinking straight. So you're far more vulnerable to make the wrong decision. You're far more vulnerable to fall to temptation if you're not careful about recognizing, I'm tired. Perspective will tell you that this temporary gratification cannot be worth the long-term risk. If any of these people could look back in hindsight, they would redo it 1,000 times over. Oftentimes in life we look back and wonder, man, if I could just get a redo. Man, if I could just do it again. But oftentimes in life, we go through what we go through so that we can help others. Maybe these massive public figures are going through what they're going through so that you can see and learn, maybe there's a better way. Maybe if I am to become the person who I know I have within me, maybe I got to move a little different. Maybe once you start reaching the highest heights, people start getting arrogant. Maybe once you start making more money than you've ever been used to, than you even knew was possible to have, maybe that's when you're most vulnerable. because you feel like you can buy everything or you can do anything. Your power is immense and no one can stop you. That sounds like the perfect recipe for a person who's going to get caught off guard, because you're certainly not on the defensive. Everything in life feels like you can win, which means you've removed the possibility of a loss. It sounds good, but it's not realistic. And you got to be careful, because again, some things are too important for 2020 hindsight. Some things are too precious to be left up to chance. Some opportunities, some positions, some roles that you've been able to achieve after years of hard work and dedication, some things are once in a lifetime. And if you don't respect and value them, you'll lose them forever. Being human means that oftentimes we could be lazy, forgetful, arrogant, but if you know for a fact these are on the table, they're possible, you can do something about it. You can preemptively strike or go on the defensive to make sure that you're not putting yourself at further risk. Massive amounts of fame and wealth can make us feel invincible, can make us feel like nobody can touch us, when nothing could be further from the truth. The higher up you go, the further and faster you can come crashing down. And for all the support and cheers that you got, there might be that much more disdain, hatred, and animus towards you, all because you chose to be the villain in your own life. Don't do it to yourself, your soul, your character. It's not worth it. It's when you think you're bulletproof that you're most vulnerable. When you're chasing greatness, there's usually somebody right on your tail. Somebody else who wants that same position as you. Champion, father, best, greatest of all time, number one, respected. Father, leader, distinguished, gentleman. All of the things that take time and effort and energy and consistency in order to build could be lost in a second. There was once a fighter named Anderson Silva, one of the greatest of all times. His movement and ability to sway and move and dodge attacks was literally compared to water. That's how good he was. But at a certain point, after winning and being successful and money and fame and attention, he became so arrogant, so full of himself, that one time in a championship fight, he put his hands down. He got cocky. He thought that he couldn't be touched, and he got touched. He lost his title that night. He got injured the next fight, and he never won it again. He never reached the highest heights again. That was it. And maybe if that moment never happens, maybe he lasts a little bit longer. Maybe his reign is that much greater. But he chose to tempt fate. He chose to play around. And so despite all the training and preparation and sparring, there was only one thing that would cause this man to lose. And that's the one thing he chose to do. He took his opponent too lightly, and it cost him everything. How many opponents in life have you been taking too lightly? How many times have you dropped your hands, dropped the ball, and not done what you were supposed to? Failed to remove distraction, failed to remove the temptation before you even have to fight it. Sometimes you can overcome it, oftentimes you can beat it, but a lot of times it only takes one time for you to slip. What if every single day of your life you are loyal and faithful and committed? There are some things in life where if you even slip once, you slip far too many times, and you can never come back from it. Once you're one of the best, the temptation is always going to be there to say, nah, I'm different, I'm better, they're not like me, I'm not like them. If somebody has done and been in the exact same position as you, and you know what could happen, you need to be doing everything you can to study the game. So become a student of history. At the time, right before he lost, Anderson Silva was seen as indestructible, and nobody was supposed to be able to touch him. He lost against a guy who nobody was picking because he chose to take for granted the position he had been given, to forget just how high of a height he had climbed to, and just how high of a height his opponent must have as well. Understanding is different. Respecting the game, respecting the process, being a person of character and integrity, even when others aren't looking, because you can lose everything in an instant and it won't even be worth it. There's always another dollar or opportunity or contract for those who prepare. But what about the relationship or the respect? The people who looked up to you and lifted you up and trusted you as a role model, who supported you from the beginning. How are you going to look them in the eyes and tell them, I chose to disrespect the love and support and admiration you gave me, the life lessons you taught me, the wisdom that you bestowed upon me, and asked me to display on a continual basis? It was too much for me. I chose not to do it. I chose to disrespect it, and I chose to put you and all of us in this position. The world is looking at us and judging, and it's because I chose it. Imagine the conversation when you go home and you got to explain to your family, I lost everything. There's always another dollar or opportunity or contract for the person who prepares. What about the love? What about the relationship? What about the connections? What about the respect? What about the leadership? What about being a role model? What about honoring those who supported you and look up to you for leadership and guidance? Money will come and go, but some things are irreplaceable. These are not things that were established in an instant, but you can lose everything just like that. Honor, strong foundational relationships. These are not things that you built overnight, but you can lose them in an instant if you're not careful, if you don't value them and take the actions necessary to make sure you put yourself in a position to succeed. This is the infinite evolution. It's not that success changes people, it just magnifies who they really are. So if you already don't have the character, once you reach the top and your character is tested, you're not gonna pass it. Your integrities are low, your values are in disarray. Why would you be able to handle the pressures of being at the pinnacle? You're not built for it. You haven't prepared for it. You haven't been living and preparing as though you're a person who's worthy of the position. Because when everything is brought to light and your character is truly tested, what do you want to be shown? How do you want to be remembered? What do you want your legacy to be? Are you a person of character? A person who can be trusted? Are you only as disciplined as your options? Are you only as careful as you think you have to be? Or are you being intentional? Are you being deliberate? Are you making sure that you honor the gifts you've been given? Because not everybody has them. Certain positions, they're rare. Some positions and opportunities are once in a lifetime, once in a generation, and you'll never see them again. If you know for a fact that it's that rare, it's that hard to come by, and everybody's looking for that spot, man, you gotta do everything you can to honor it. Man, you gotta do everything you can to hold on to that thing with a firm grip, to make sure that the moment you let go was the moment you chose to, and not the moment you felt a weakness, lack of discipline, low morals, and temptation. You have it in you. You can be better, but if you don't recognize and learn from the mistakes of others, acquire and use that wisdom, how are you gonna maintain it once you reach that pinnacle? This is the infinite evolution. Are you only as disciplined as your options, or will you choose to live up to the best version of yourself? Will you judge the fall of another leader, or will you learn from his mistakes so you don't become the next one? This is the infinite evolution, because the most important things in life can't be bought or paid for, but they can be lost. Just like that. This is the infinite evolution.